Hello, everyone. Sorry it's been such a long time. A couple days ago, I was cleaning out my basement with my dad, and we happened to come across his old laptop, which hasn't been turned on in over a decade. So that night, I took it home, and I somehow got it to boot, which I was super surprised about. But I was thinking that maybe there would still be something on there that was very special to me. And fortunately, I was able to find it and pull it off there. This USB drive has some of my first ever Minecraft worlds that I made all the way back in 2012. And I haven't looked at these or opened them since the last time I got off them when I was 10. So I thought it might be a really cool video to make to be able to go back and explore them and share that with you guys. Now, I don't really have too much of a plan for how this video is going to go because, to be honest, I'm not really good at editing videos or making them. So I guess we'll just see how this goes. Loading into the world for the first time, you can see my first ever wooden shack. Looks pretty average for a house back then, although I know people who still build like this today. I think I used to have snow golems wandering around, but I guess they got tired of waiting for me to get back. Going inside, you can actually see the marks on the ground where I picked up my chests to go on my grand adventure, which I'll talk about in a moment. I remember wanting to live in the snow because it was similar to Buffalo, which is a little weird thinking about now, but who's to tell me where I can't live? Beyond my house lies what I thought was an endless ocean. I remember deciding that I was tired of living in the snow, so I took all my dogs and decided to start a new life on the other side of the sea. I accidentally reverted this world to the current update of the game instead of the version I last played on, 1.5.2, which kind of ruined the immersion, but that's okay. Now that I'm not playing on the world's worst laptop, my computer can render enough chunks to see that the ocean wasn't really as large as I remembered it to be. I guess that says a lot about the mind of a kid. I would have believed that that ocean was a lot larger than it actually is had I not gone back and revisited this world, which is also something to think about. Waiting for me at the base of my very cool jungle biome treehouse were all my dogs after a decade of waiting for me to get back. I'm sure they were very, very excited to see me, as I was excited to see them as well. Next to my animals was my first ever sheep pen, which I remember couldn't actually keep any sheep in because they kept climbing up the vines and I refused to shear them from the top for some reason, so I just let them escape. If this doesn't say anything about how long ago I played on this world, I'm not sure what will. I feel like that's definitely a word I should have been able to spell at my age, but who really knows? Here's all the stuff I had in order to help me survive. I really dislike how organized I was back then. These chests would never fly in one of my current worlds. I remember coming home from school one day and seeing all the new updates. The Wither update is where this piece of pumpkin pie is from because I wanted to try making one for the first time. It's crazy how I remember that moment specifically. Here I clearly was trying to understand potion brewing, but I wasn't cooking anything. The last chest contained all my important loot, as you can see by these absolutely insane enchantments. Here at the top was an expansion I was working on, but I guess I never got the time to finish it. This is my melon and pumpkin farm. Not really the best food source if you ask me, but it got me by. This one right here really takes me back. I think every kid tried at least once to build an Aether portal and was met with the crushing disappointment of flowing water. Going into the Nether before there were trees and more than one thing to do, I remember hating the Nether back then just as much as I do now. I guess some things don't change too much. These little guys weren't supposed to be here, but like I said, I messed up going back in time with the updates and I think they're pretty cute, so I just left them in here. I didn't really get too far in the game after this point. I remember struggling to find a blaze spawner, and even then I was too afraid to find the end portal, so I just kind of stopped going in there. It's cool to see these random blocks placed all over, marks of where I was trying to go and how I got there while navigating through this very scary dungeon. Finally, here was the entrance to my mine, which I made very clear that it was dangerous. Here in this chest was some pretty random loot. I don't remember exactly why I put it in there, but opening this chest unlocked a memory I never would have thought of ever again, which I thought was pretty cool. After giving my dog some much needed food and attention, I closed out my world again, just like I did so many years ago. Being able to go back and revisit this chapter of my childhood truly meant a lot to me. I may not have shown it on the video, but I was pretty emotional being able to see my horrible treehouse again after all this time. It's like I was in the place of my 10-year-old self, sitting at the desk of my dad's old apartment, not realizing what I was creating for me to reminisce on. And that's something I wouldn't have ever thought of at the time. I wasn't thinking about college, work, a much smaller and younger version of Snickers getting old, or wanting to return to the good old days. I was just a stupid kid, mindlessly having fun, playing an indie game that I thought was awesome. Anyone can still go back and play the older versions of the game and try and simulate the feeling of doing it all for the first time, but the artificial feeling wears off pretty quick. I don't miss the old versions of the game. I miss the time it took place, and the young, dumb kid I used to be. The older you get, the more complicated everything in life becomes. Seeing the ocean I once thought was endless, the abandoned snow-covered shed, and my dogs all sitting on that beach, right as they were the day I last logged on, made me feel like I was a kid again for just a brief moment. I would give anything to be able to go back and experience that all over again, but unfortunately that's not how life works. I think about how differently I play the game in more recent years compared to when I was younger. Although I still admire the game and all of its changes, the truth is, it will never be the same as it used to be. As Minecraft continued to develop through the years, I did too. I've created memories through this game with people who I still talk to every day and people who unfortunately aren't a part of my life anymore. As much as I hate to think about change, it is an inevitable process of life, and despite this world I created and everything that sat there for a decade remained exactly the same as the day I left it, and it probably will forever. It's impossible to know what the future holds, where I'll be in a month, a year, 10 years, but it's nice to know I was able to dig up a part of my life that was a lot simpler and a lot easier, a time where everything just made sense.